Hey everyone, Kevin Lewis with Home Life Benchmark Titus Realty, and it's time for your May 2023 Fraser Valley Real Estate Market Update. Now that we're full swing into 2023, we've gone through April and March, which are generally the beginning of the spring market for real estate in the Lower Mainland. What's really going on in the market right now? Are we back towards the chaos where multiple offers are on every listing and homes are going to be breaking records soon? Are we still in a super slow market? Well, it really depends on what you're looking at and where you're looking. Because if we look at total sales numbers and total listings, we can see that the market's actually quite low still. And sales numbers are still coming in well below the 10-year average for the month of April. New listings are way below the average 10-year listings for April. And when you put these three things combined, we get some really funny stats sort of going on in our market right now. In a typical year for the Fraser Valley real estate market, we are going to see April outperform March in almost all categories, including total number of sales, total number of new listings, and prices increasing. Now, if we compare April 2023 to March 2023, our numbers are coming in almost identical for sales and new listings. However, prices did increase. So why would we see prices increase when we're not seeing above average activity levels and we're actually seeing lower than average activity levels, but prices are still going up? So how could this be? Well, if you remember, everything's based on the simple laws of supply and demand. And despite the fact that there's not a lot of sales happening, there's just not a lot of homes listed on the market right now. As we're in such a low inventory to begin with, if we use the actual numbers, we actually have to take into account some other factors that are here as well, where yes, prices have started climbing back up. We're about 5% up from the very bottom in January, February of this year. However, we're still about 16% below the peak where we were last March 2022. So what we're starting to see here is we're having more listings come on the market, still not enough even if they are all listed properly. However, of the few homes that are coming onto the market that are listed, we are still seeing a good chunk of them that are just ridiculously overpriced, probably based on last year's pricing, and unreasonable sellers just thinking that their house is somehow magically immune to the market going down like it did over the last year. So we're starting to see a lot of these on the market, or still seeing a lot of these on the market, which is really falsely lowering our already low total inventory numbers. And that's why, despite the low number of sales, we're still seeing prices increase. Now, things still get a little bit weirder when we actually talk about the day-to-days of being a real estate agent and how the market feels. Feeling is a pretty hard thing to describe in a statistic in any sort of way. And it's certainly not a metric that I would use to make any bold predictions on the market. But based with what I've just said about the low inventory and the buyers starting to come back out, not to mention the fact that interest rates have now been frozen for two straight announcements. This is a good sign that interest rates are probably going to hold steady. But it's really starting to feel like a more active market than it actually is, as many good priced homes are still going to multiple offers. We're starting to see offers not prior to a specific date again, which is typically indicative of a very busy market. We're starting to even see some homes that are restricting showings to only during their open houses. So all of these combining, it seems as if there's a lot of people predicting the market to do what it did in 2021. However, I think a lot of realtors tend to have some short-term memories as far as focusing on what's going to happen. I don't think we're going to see the same chaos we saw in 2021. I think it's going to be much more typical type growth. We are seeing quite high growth already. As I mentioned, detached homes are up 5% from the bottom in January. 5% is pretty normal for an entire year's growth. So we are seeing things grow quite quickly as far as price numbers go. But we really need to see more inventory come and see if that more inventory does relieve the number of buyers that are currently out there, or if that just adds to the buyer pool and continues the differential of supply and demand, which, as we know, is what's going to drive the prices up or down. It's in these type of transition type markets that it matters the most to make a plan for your needs and to really break down what's going to be happening in the sector of the market that you're either going to be selling or buying into, or both. Because, like I say, we're seeing some neighborhoods like White Rock, for example, where most homes are going to multiple offers, for White Rock condos, I should specify. They're going to multiple offers for most good homes that are listed at a reasonable price. There are still some that don't necessarily do that, but we can recognize that that's happening in that specific area. Whereas if we go to Maple Ridge condos, for example, they're not moving quite as quickly as things are down in White Rock. So we have to take both different locations with a slightly different approach to each other. This is why it's so important to make a plan unique for you, because selling a house in North Delta is very different than selling a condo in White Rock, which is very different than selling some vacant land in Abbotsford. Every property type is different, and in a more balanced market where it's more predictable, we can still have some predictability from different property types, knowing that the whole market is generally going up or down as a whole. But when we have these transition markets where one sector really does start to change a little bit more than another sector, that's when we really have to break things down and sort of look at what this all means for you and making your next move as smooth and stress-free as possible. So in general terms, if you're looking to buy in the near future, I think that time's not necessarily on your side as far as prices go. However, we have to keep in mind that affordability is more than just prices, it's your payments. And if interest rates being as high as they are and prices continuing to climb, we do have to be careful that we don't get ourselves into a situation where you're going to get into something that's just too expensive. Now, the other side of that coin is we could see interest rates begin to fall. We are seeing what's called a rate inversion at the banks, where a variable mortgage rate is actually a higher interest than a short-term fixed rate like 2 years or 3 years. Typically, the banks are going to have your fixed rates higher than the variable rates, and that's what's attractive to a variable mortgage. However, when they're flopped around and our variable rates are higher than our fixed rates, that probably means that the bank thinks that rates are likely to come down before the end of these terms. So if a 2-year fixed rate is lower than the variable rate right now, that probably means the bank thinks that the variable will be lower than that fixed rate by the end of the 2-year term. Now, again, this is speculation on the bank's behalf, and we're interpreting what the bank's doing. So this is by no means actual facts or anything. This is speculation and taking a look at what's potentially going to happen with all of these things. So if we see prices going up now and potentially have interest rates going to be dropping, there's a very good opportunity to make some very good money in some short amount of time by purchasing today with a little bit higher interest rates, and knowing that as those interest rates drop, we're going to see homes grow even faster than we're seeing them grow with the rates being held steady. If you've been paying attention to these newsletters and these videos for the last few months, you'll know that the rates are likely going to come back down, and you'll know that prices are tied quite closely to what the rates are doing. If you take the average home at the average price and the 5-year fixed rate term with a 20% down payment in March of 2022, 1 year ago, your average monthly payments were just under $4,000. Now, if you take that same average home, which is a lower purchase price, and the 5-year fixed rate, which is a higher percentage than it was a year ago, and a 20% down payment, which would be lower than it was a year ago, your monthly payments on that same average home are still just over $4,000. So depending on the exact timing and the exact properties, we're talking about $200 a month difference in your monthly payments, despite the fact that purchase prices have come down $250,000. So if we really think about this, we can now say that the market has probably set a precedent that prices will likely go back to March 22 prices at some point in time. We don't know necessarily when they will, but it's more likely that they will, and that we're not going to see prices suddenly just cap out and stop gaining ever. So we do have some precedent set that prices can go up about 20%, about 16 to 20% from where they are today, again, depending on the sector of the market that you're looking at. So with that imbalance, if we're expecting rates to come drop back down again, that likely means that when prices came down with rates went up, prices will go up as rates come down, because it comes down to the affordability that the buyers can actually afford. And if money is easier to borrow, The same person at a lower interest rate can simply borrow more money, which allows the market to go up even higher than it currently is. So if we take all of that into account, we really need to think about the fact that there's some potential big equity gains to be made in the short term. Now, again, we don't want to be thinking just with our potential investments. We want to think worst case scenario as well. And we have to recognize that interest rates are pretty high right now. So if you do buy in and you lock in, make sure that you can afford to make the payments that you're doing right now. And make sure you can afford worst case scenario if interest rates were to go back up again a little bit. Overall, it's not a bad time at all to make a purchase happen. It's actually probably a good thing because, as we just touched on, there's potential to make some pretty good equity in a pretty short amount of time. Now, if you're looking to sell and buy, it really depends again on your situation, whether you're upsizing, whether you're downsizing, what neighborhood you're moving from, and what neighborhood you're moving to. So to get into all the potential situations here, this video would end up being an hour long. So that's once again where your unique situation is going to be unique to you, and we can start making a plan based on all of that. But overall, it's a pretty good time to make a move happen. You have some time to think about things, but at the same time, it's still moving pretty quick. So if we're going to list your home on the market, we can probably get it sold as long as we price it right in a pretty reasonable amount of time and limit the number of people coming through your home taking a look. If you are interested in making a move, be sure to reach out sometime soon, 604-218-5635. Leave me a comment below, send me an email, send me a message, however you want to get in touch. Be sure to get in touch soon, and I look forward to hearing from you.